there's a difference between voter fraud and making voting easy, convenient, and maximize voter turnout. Voter fraud, fraudulent voting, uh, that almost doesn't happen. I mean, it's so minuscule that during the George W. Bush's administration, there were fewer than one case per state per year, and they were aggressively going after it. I mean, it's no problem. But in terms of encouraging people to vote, removing obstacles to voting, I think that's very, very important. And I agree completely with the president on that. But, there are these conspiracy theorists on the right and on the left that are absolutely convinced that they never lose elections, that elections are stolen from them, but they never lose them. And it gets pretty tiresome, to be honest. And whether it's conservatives talking about Acorn and groups that were registering fraudulently Democratic voters, or whether it's Democrats saying Republicans are trying to steal votes, it's almost negligible. But we need to take some positive steps to maximize voter turnout. And I would be in favor of if they wanted to move election day, make it a national holiday. It looks like some of the experiments in terms of voting by mail seems to be coming along. But there are things we could do to maximize voter participation. Oh, I don't think so. Some elections, yes, some no. It depends. I take, the thing is, but people forget that, younger voters, they were a pretty good group for Ronald Reagan. I mean, it depends on the era, whether young voters are tilting one way or tilting one way or tilting the other way. So, oh, I don't think so. And I think it's kind of hard to be against full full participation. I think it's just healthier. Well, 2004, the George W. Bush John Kerry election, both campaigns, in terms of technical proficiency, both campaigns were very good, and you were relative parity. And then, and you remember, Howard Dean did some real groundbreaking stuff earlier in 2004, and the Kerry campaign, in terms of the web, kind of built on a foundation from the Dean campaign. And on the Democratic side, that technology just continued to improve, and develop. And then the Obama campaign took it to a whole new level in '08, and then a whole new level in 2012. Meanwhile, the McCain campaign was living hand to mouth. I think it's fair to say that in a lot of ways, on the Republican side, they kind of atrophied for about 8 years. And the Romney campaign could only focus on the general election after the third week of April, when Santorum dropped out. And even then didn't have for a month or two the resources. When you have an incumbent president of the United States who doesn't have a nomination challenge, 4 years to get ready for one day, that's a hell of an advantage. I mean, one of the things that we've always known is that incumbent presidents who have nomination challenges, they invariably lose. And the incumbent presidents who don't, they win. And, you could argue, was it the cart or the horse? Did the incumbents who lost, did they lose because they had a nomination challenge and were weakened? Or were they so weak to begin with that they couldn't keep out a challenger? And that's a legitimate argument, and usually the answer is some of both. But this is a third way. That is that when you were unencumbered by a nomination challenge, man, that gives you an advantage over the other side that presumably does have a contested nomination that is, arguably maybe insurmountable. I think the first rule is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. And I think, cut a deal on a comprehensive immigration bill, get that out of the way, get some of the more exotic members just to shut the hell up. I mean, like, stop talking about this. Try to talk to some of the leading conservative talk show hosts. If you really want us to win elections, would you not talk about this anymore? Because it really is hurting us. I mean, sort of stop digging, and that will help some. The thing about it is, you look at George W. Bush. Both times he got very respectable shares. I think he got up to 43, 44% of the Hispanic vote at one point. And he would speak in broken Spanish, and he made an effort. His campaign had did a lot of Spanish language ads that weren't just the English ads translated into Spanish. They were like original ads, and where they're going after. I don't think. I think as Latino incomes go up, if Republicans stop digging the hole and cut back on the rhetoric, as Latino incomes go up, I think Republican share of middle class, upper middle class, Latino, as that population gets bigger and bigger, I think Republicans have a good chance of getting some of those folks. Um, and same thing with Asian voters, where, Romney actually lost the Asian vote by, what was it, 4 points worse than the Latino vote. When the hell has that ever happened? I think stop digging, and then, and that works in a lot of cases. I mean, at the House Republican retreat, where they had a pollster, and actually I think Karen Hughes wrote an op-ed piece to the same effect, where it says, don't use the word rape. It's a four-letter word. There's no reason for a Republican congressional candidate, Senate candidate, to use the word unless you're describing a horrible, vicious crime. I mean, just don't do this anymore. So much of this damage is self-inflicted. At the end of the day, I think both parties, when you watch this for 40 years, both parties have self-destructive tendencies. And if left to their own devices, sooner or later each one does. And that's why I sort of believe in the pendulum. And we'll go through a few years where one party just seems to be doing everything wrong, and the other party would appear to be doing everything right. And things change. Usually the party that's doing well overreaches. The party that's been doing badly finally learns from some mistakes, and it turns and goes the other direction. And it's all pretty cyclical, but it doesn't mean the process that it's not terribly painful for the party that's going through tough times. But it's just sort of part of the process. I mean, the candidates are incredibly important. And I mean, every election cycle, you can look around the country, and there are wealthy candidates running for Senate, governor, House, all the money in the world. They hire oftentimes great talent and just fall flat on their faces. Because the thing is, if the candidate sucks, the campaign has a really hard time making up for that. And so it's all of these are part of it. I mean, money is important and campaigns are important, but the candidates are pretty important too. Now, you can't necessarily walk down the hall of the Cannon House office building in Washington and say, every single one of them is the best this country has to offer. But all these things are important.